For this lesson, we're just doing some multiplying decimals, some review. So what you're going to do is you're going to start by writing the problem vertically. You don't have to line up the decimals, remember, when you're multiplying, because it's not dealing with place value. It's not like adding and subtracting. And next you're going to estimate. Now when you estimate, you should choose something that is easy to multiply, something you can do in your head. So 3 2/10, we're just going to estimate that, and we're going to make that just 3. And then 6 4/10, we're going to estimate that, we're just going to make that 6. We're going to multiply that, and we get 18. And so now you have your estimate of 18 for this problem. Now you have to do your multiplication, and if you do lattice or the traditional algorithm, it doesn't matter. So if I'm doing the traditional algorithm, I take my 4/10 and I got to multiply that by each of the other numbers. So 4 times 2 is 8. And remember, we ignore the decimals, so we just do 4 times 3 is 12. Place our 0 placeholder there because we're moving to the next place value. 6 times 2 is 12. Carry my 1. 6 times 3 is 18 plus 1 is 19. So I add those, and 10, carry 1. This is what I get, 2048. So now let's do the lattice method. So I'm going to start in my upper right hand box. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 3 is 18. 2 times 4 is 8. And 4 times 3 is 12. Now I add going diagonally. So I have 8. That would be 10. Carry my 1. I'm sorry, that would not be 10. That would be 4. And then we get 10 and 2. So there's what you get when you multiply. Finally, you would take your estimate, and our estimate's 18. And so then we look at our answer, 2048, and we have to figure out where would you put the decimal so you get something that's close to 18. And of course, if you put it between the 0 and the 4, you would get 20 and 48/100ths, and that's close to 18. So that would be where it goes. Now, you could also, if you did the traditional algorithm, you can count the decimal places in each of the problems. So this one has 1 decimal place here and 1 decimal place here. You add those together, so you know that in your answer you need 2 decimal places. So we take that, we go to our answer, we start over here on the right side, and we move 1, 2 decimal places, and we know that it goes between the 0 and the 4. If you're using lattice, what you do is you take the decimal points and you move down and over until they meet. So if we go down, and do that again, if we go down and we go over, they meet right here. So wherever they meet, then you go ahead and take the slide down the diagonal, and that's where the decimal is going to go. Okay, now sometimes when we have a problem that doesn't have a decimal place, for instance, if we were doing the problem 27 times 3 7/10. So we would still do the same process, but if you're doing lattice, alright, so if you're doing lattice, so in this case you would still do the estimate, you would still do everything, but if you actually multiplied this, we get 21, we get 6, 49, 14, and we add 9, 9, 9, and 0. So our answer, we get 999. Now, notice 27 doesn't have a decimal place, so because of that, we have to put the decimal where it would actually be, which would be after the 7. So our decimal would be here. So in that case, it would come down, and then this would come right here, and then this is our diagonal that we're going to meet. And so we'd slide down that way. let's say that the decimal was in the other number. So I'm going to change this to, instead of 27, I'm going to make it 2 7/10 times 37. So in this case, if it was set up this way, our decimal would be here, and then 37 would not have a decimal that you see. So for this 37, the decimal would go at the bottom here, next to the 7. And so we would go across, we would come down, and it would end up there. Okay, so that's how you do it. Now notice it would be in the same place. Sorry, I erased another extra number. It would be in the same place, but just so you see how it works with the lattice method. All right, hope it helps. Do the math.